Well, a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to all of you that are joining us for this exciting live streamed webinar. My name is Carol Shabalala, and it's such an honor for me to be here as your program director, your facilitator for our wonderful program this morning. A warm welcome to all of our speakers, to all of the partners and members of Proudly South African, to our delegates and our attendees. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this groundbreaking webinar. So Proudly South African, from time to time, really takes an opportunity to cast the spotlight on various sectors that contribute greatly to the development of the economy in South Africa. So this webinar in particular will be focusing on the automotive sector, which is one of the country's largest economic sectors that contributes to 4.3% to the country's gross domestic product. And as such, Proudly SA decided that it would be really important to have a webinar to discuss how it is that we can continue, of course, looking at the role that the automotive sector plays, not just in South Africa, but on the continent at large. So the theme for this webinar is the role of localization in the automotive industry. Now, we want you to interact as well. We want you to send us your views as you hear from the speakers throughout the day and throughout this particular webinar. Just a reminder of the social media handles for Proudly SA. And you can interact with all of us. On X, we are at Proudly SA. On Instagram, it's at proudly.sa, and on Facebook, Proudly South African. So interact with us. We are, of course, also streaming live on those platforms as well. For those of you, of course, that are live via the link, then just a reminder as well that you can send through your questions, your comments via the chat box, and there will be an opportunity a little bit later on as well to table those questions and to take a look at your comments as well. Now, when you take a look at the localization of the automotive webinar, it's a major step forward in terms of highlighting the work that still needs to be done to enable small businesses to form part of the value chain of this fast-paced, ever-evolving industry. Now, we have 4 experts when it comes to this topic that we'll be hearing from this morning, and they'll be sharing their experience and also leaving us with some food for thought in terms of how it is that we can continue to take the automotive industry in South Africa and to even greater heights. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we kick off this exciting webinar, to officially welcome all of us here and to once again speak about the purpose of this webinar from our gracious hosts, Proudly South African, it's my great honor to introduce now an individual who has over 17 years experience in accounting and financial management in both the public and private sectors. And after fulfilling various roles within the organization of Proudly SA, he was appointed as the permanent CEO in December 2016. To get us underway, please welcome Mr. Eustace Mashibe.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Carol. Good morning to everyone, to my fellow panelists, to the delegates who have made time and joined us this morning.
Good morning, sir. I think you are muted. I can't hear you.
Oops. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Good morning, everyone.
We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. I think the problem is on their side. So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for taking time to join us this morning. My name is Eustace Mashibe, as introduced. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Proudly South African. My role this morning is to take you through what localization is about. I've been asked to come help set the scene with a conversation which is really going to be centered around the role that the automotive industry can play in helping drive
Okay, Mr.
localization.
Washimbe, we are struggling to hear you. Yes, you are muted at the moment, sir. So if we could please ask you to unmute.
Carol, can you hear me?
Okay, you still muted?
Carol,
Mr.
can you hear
Mashimbe,
me?
please can you unmute?
So, Carol, you can't hear me either, can you?
So whilst Mr. Mashimbe is working on unmuting himself so that we can hear, there we go. All right, that's all right.
Okay, I'm back. Good morning, everyone. I'm told that you can all hear me now. I think it's just Carol on your side that can hear me. So as per my earlier intro, I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Proudly South African, and my role this morning is to unpack the role that localization can play in helping drive the economy, but looking more broadly today at the role that the automotive industry is now playing towards ensuring that the country can further localize, especially in this industry that is so important to not only the GDP of the country, but also the creation of much needed new job opportunities. So I'm going to quickly take you through a few slides. As requested, my role is to give you an overview of Proudly South African and what localization is about. Proudly South African was formed on the back of the fact that the country battles three main challenges. And at the time in 2001, when we opened our doors, it was following a presidential job summit, which was hosted by the then president at the time, Nelson Mandela, had convened a summit to try and find ways in which jobs could be created in the economy. And one of the interventions identified at that 1998 presidential job summit was to form a buy local campaign. And that's how Proudly South African opened its doors in 2001. And the unemployment problem that we had back then continues to persist. And in fact, at the end of 2023, rather, we still had unemployment standing at a staggering 32.1. And if you look at the expanded mandate, it takes you to way above the 40s. And so our mandate is quite simple. It's quite straightforward. Is that if there's anyone out there who's making a purchasing decision, as an advocacy campaign, our role is to ensure that we try and convince them to choose locally made products, to buy that which is locally made. And even in instances where, this is proven, where people have been buying without necessarily giving consideration as to where the product comes from, to start looking for local alternatives and to start checking country of origin labels. And the minute it says made in South Africa, you're supporting jobs, you're supporting the economy of the country. But if it says otherwise, it means you are helping create jobs in that specific economy. And this phenomenon of buying local is not unique to South Africa only. It's a global phenomenon, tried and tested all over the world. In fact, if you look at developed economies, the most powerful economies in the world have buy local campaigns. Some have buy local campaigns for their countries. Some have for regions, some have for small towns and even cities. And so, what I've tried to do today is to pick up one case study that I know will resonate with most of you because we are exposed to a lot of their content. The US, they even have a legislation dating as far back as 1933, known as the Buy American Act. And in 1982, they followed that up with the Buy America Act and issued an improvement to that act in 2017. So this has been a big part of their macroeconomic policy framework for close to a century now. And one of the similarities that you will find between the previous president and the current president, President Biden, is the fact that they both advocate for Buy American provisions. And President Biden, within the first week of coming into office, signed up into law provisions to strengthen Buy American provisions, indicating how important this is for them. And interestingly, the industry that is supported a lot by these Buy American provisions is the automotive industry. If you think of a town like Detroit, where Ford and Jeep and Dodge come from, that remains the main source or one of the main sources of employment for that part of the US. And so by ensuring that Buy American provisions remain in place, they are making sure that that industry gets supported by those who make purchasing decisions, either as consumers, but most importantly, as the federal government. And obviously the private sector then follows suit. And it's very important for them to keep that industry going. So the same applies to us, simply because localization helps you retain jobs. If there's an industry like this, some of the analysts who are going to speak to you later will talk to you about, different aspects of this value chain, of this ecosystem where jobs are created. And the more you produce those products that you will be spoken about later today or later in this webinar, you will then discover how many jobs are being created, and that the more we place orders with these component manufacturers, with the actual OEMs getting orders placed, whether locally or otherwise, they're able to then create new job opportunities. And those who are then absorbed into those jobs, especially in a country like ours, where the majority of those who are unemployed largely are of an age that falls within the category of young people. They have no skills as a result. And so when they get these jobs, they get an opportunity to acquire much needed skills, which can then help them improve their living standards. And localization really contributes to the development of the economy and to the growth of the GDP. We did a study as Proudly South African 2 years ago with renowned economist, Dr. Iraja Bedian, and we looked at what the impact of growing investment in the manufacturing sector. And you can only grow investment if there's growing uptake, if there's growing procurement of that which is locally made, which then informs those investment decisions that are made. If you were to get that increase up to 10% in both uptake of locally made products and manufacturing, the impact, according to that study, both over the medium term and short term, points to all the economic indicators, showing positive growth. I mean, the first one, the GDP, and just as a result of the 10% increase in investment, will grow by as much as 13%. Fiscal revenue, which is much needed by government to be able to render services to all of us as a result of increased tax base, will increase by 9%. But in terms of jobs, which is the most important economic indicator in this regard, you will see an estimated 75,300 new jobs created directly in manufacturing. And as part of that multiply effect, if you look at the entire value chain, because to produce any product, you require components, you require raw materials, and they come from different industries. And that will then result in about 11,500 additional jobs created in mining and about 10,100 jobs created in agriculture. So overall, there will be an 8% increase in employment creation, just with 10% increased investment in manufacturing, increased uptake in that which is locally made. And it does not matter which subsector of manufacturing it is. It can be automotive, which we are looking at today. It can be the furniture industry, the poultry industry, any subsector, steel, and clothing, textile, footwear, and leather, any subsector of manufacturing that you can think of will have this kind of result, just with us deciding to spend at least 10% more than we are, and investing 10% more than we are doing currently in manufacturing. And so if you increase it to 20%, the numbers keep getting higher and higher. And so our 4 focus areas as Proudly South African includes us looking at buying that is done by the public sector. What is government buying and where is it coming from? If you think of the cumulative spending that happens in government at national level, at provincial level, at the municipality level, and if you combine that with all of the SOEs and all the state-owned companies, that cumulative spend can really turn the economy around. And that 10% that I spoke about a couple of minutes ago can really just come from government just continuing to make purchasing decisions that are in favor of locally made products. When they buy their fleet of motor vehicles as part of what was previously known as a government garage, they should start looking at that which is made locally. And the same applies to the private sector. We continue to do a lot of work as Proudly South African, and I'll give you a quick example. I'll show you quickly before I conclude what we have done in the private sector to ensure that the automotive industry gets the support it requires from the private sector. The private sector has a role to play in ensuring that they contribute to the growth of the economy so that more and more of us can stay employed, more and more of us can even afford the products that they themselves, irrespective of whatever industry that private sector entity comes from, can stay in business and we can afford the products they're selling. As a general public, we also have a responsibility. So Proudly South African rolls out consumer education campaigns, educating consumers on the importance of looking out for country of origin labels and choosing that which says made in South Africa. We have seen great strides being made when we compare where we are now to about 8, 9 years or so ago when I started. And social media has a big part to play in that, but even the research that we conduct ourselves biannually shows us that more and more South Africans are now warming up to the idea of buying that which is made in South Africa first, but most importantly, looking out for the economy because they understand the economic importance of them buying local as opposed to buying that which comes from outside of the country. And so we'll continue to roll out consumer education programs to get consumers to choose locally made vehicles. If you're buying a car that has an equivalent that is made in South Africa, we ask that you rather opt for that which is made in South Africa. In the course of doing our work as Proudly South African, we come across a lot of entities, individuals, companies, and even in government that say to us, how do we access locally made products? And so what we've added as a key focus area is promoting accessibility of locally made products and services, making it easy for anyone who wants to buy local to easily find a locally made product. And we have a lot of portals, a lot of platforms, and a lot of ways in which we're making it easy for locally made products to be sourced by those who make purchasing decisions. And so all of you might have at some point come across the Proudly South African logo. You will see that it's made up of the colors of the flag of the Republic of South Africa, telling you instantly that the product you're about to buy, that the company you're about to support makes their product locally. They utilize as best as possible and where those components and raw materials are available, components and raw materials sourced in South Africa and made in South Africa. And so every time you come across a product with our logo, you know that you're supporting jobs in the country. It contains sufficient local content for us to have been able to give it the accreditation for the product or for the entity to utilize the Proudly South African logo in order to identify as such. The other element that comes across and comes through easily when you look at the Proudly South African logo is the tick. The green tick instantly tells you that what you're about to buy is a high quality, locally made product. It complies with the standards prescribed in that specific industry. It can be products, it can be services. In each industry, there are standards that those who produce the product, that those who render the services have to adhere to. And so all our members, through the vetting process they go through, demonstrate to us that they produce products in South Africa, that as best as possible, they source their raw materials and components locally, and most importantly, that the product or the service to be rendered is of a high quality nature. There are instances where the raw materials and components that you require to make a product are not available. And so we have then set a threshold that says at least 50% of the cost of producing that product must be sourced in South Africa. And so that is what will allow a company to become a member and to participate in all our programs. The other two issues that we look at that are very important to us is whether companies that affiliate with us help us preserve the environment. You have the CEO of NAMSA coming up shortly without preempting what he's going to say, but he'll probably talk to you about what is being done in this industry in terms of decarbonization and contributing to preserving the environment with the different papers that have been issued around energy vehicles, etc. And so that's what we do as Proudly South African. Members of Proudly South African have to demonstrate that they help us reduce the carbon footprint and decarbonize and recycle and reuse material where possible and dispose of waste responsibly. Lastly, companies that affiliate with us have to ensure that they treat their workers fairly and according to the labor legislation of the country. If you think of the business support ecosystem, anyone doing business in the country requires access to all of these things: information, ways in which they can increase their productivity, funding, and other non-financial support, as well as financial support itself. But most importantly, access to markets, and which is where Proudly South African is. Proudly South African's role is to ensure that if you're making a product in the country, if there's anyone buying that product, that they choose a locally made product and they choose to buy from you. And so we have an array and a bouquet of platforms and offerings that we've developed and that we've come up with that will help you as a business person that ticks all our boxes to be able to become part of this campaign and to be able to, as a result of being part of this campaign, take your products to the different markets that you're targeting. So e-commerce is one of the strategies we have really strengthened over the past couple of years, both for those wanting to sell to consumers, so B2C, and for those who, as businesses, want to sell to other businesses. So we have now started having access to B2B platforms where it's third-party platforms that we form collaboration with, and they are then able to list products of Proudly South African members on those platforms at discounted rates, and in some instances they don't even pay to list on their product on their platforms like other people would, and as a result they're able to then easily take their products to consumers. When you go into these platforms, some of the examples that I've given there: Macro, Bismet, Zando, Avo, Loot, One Day Only, Made by Artisans. We've added Take a Lot now. You will find that when you do a search for whatever product you want to buy, some of the products will come up with the Proudly South African logo next to them, telling you as a consumer that you're buying a locally made product. What we've done is also we've created portals. We take our companies to expos and markets and trade fairs where they can interact with buyers, where they can be found by buyers, to ensure that those who are making purchasing decisions can easily find them. We have a campaign known as Will You Commit to Job Creation. And in fact, it's coincidental that over the years, we launched this in 2018. And since we launched it, the image we've had for this campaign is that of a car being made in South Africa, indicating the significance of this industry. And basically what we're asking of the private sector is for them to choose items that they're going to buy, ring-fence items that they're going to buy locally. With the banks, we've had examples that I've indicated on the screen, really being bought locally by the banks, where they've bought their furniture locally, uniform, promotional material, stationery, same with the schools, same with independent hospitals, and in the automotive industry, their components, machinery, uniform, where we've actively engaged those who make purchasing decisions to choose locally made products when buying any of these things. And like I said, with manufacturers, we've asked them to look at components and raw materials and to buy this locally. So we've had a lot of successes in each of these industries. These are just some of the areas where we've had successes over the years, because basically what we ask for is the private sector entities to identify that which they're going to buy locally. And we then link them up with companies in our books that are listed on a platform known as MAP. And MAP serves the same purpose for the private sector, which is served by the CSD. If you want to do business with government, you have to register on the CSD. And in our instance, MAP is utilized as a portal where buyers in the private sector can go in and find companies that have been vetted by Proudly South African, which they can buy from. And so we have had a lot of successes. I spoke about quite a few of these things that you see on the screen. Matchmaking, very important. We already have successes where we've linked up our members with buyers of corporates, buyers of retail, who have given shelf space to locally made products. And that is just some of the examples of what we've done in the private sector and the public sector. We've integrated our database with the CSD, so those in government looking to buy can easily find locally made products. Consumers, we have a lot of consumer activations where we try and we go to where we know consumers congregate with a view of finding products, introduce them to locally made products, and ensure that by the time they leave those platforms, they've developed an affinity towards those products, and they continue buying them even beyond those platforms where they will have come across those products. We're introducing our own e-commerce platform. Sometime in June, we're going to have a launch. We've just wanted this period of electioneering and elections and results to come out. And then once the noise has died down, we can then give Proudly South African products the kind of attention that they require, and make sure that the spotlight is cast on them when we do launch that site, because we want that to be the go-to site for anyone wanting to buy locally made products. What we've done in this industry previously includes taken cars that are made in South Africa. The X3 is made in South Africa. 3 Series previously made in South Africa. Nissan makes their bike in South Africa. We do factory visits all over the country. We push the need for locally made cars to be, given support through our social media platforms. This is just one of some of the examples of what we've done previously at our own flagship event, the Buy Local Summit and Expo, with both Nissan and BMW. Now, with the recently held Buy Local Summit and Expo, we had all 7 OEMs that make cars in South Africa showcasing their products at the Buy Local Summit and Expo in March, and that then spoke to what we're trying to achieve of getting institutions that make purchasing decisions to buy local. I mean, one of the biggest wins we got this year is Sabrala, which represents vehicle rental agencies. So be it Europcar, Budget, Hertz, Avis, and name all of them, where the commitment is for all of them to start looking at the different groups and categories of cars that they buy and starting to increase the percentage of locally made cars in each of those categories. So if it's a category B or a group B, as an example, the Polo Vivo is what is made in South Africa, or the Toyota Corolla. And so we want them to choose that. If it's group E, the Corolla might be there, the C-Class might be a group G, the X3. So in each of those categories, there are cars that are made in South Africa, and the call that we've made and the commitment that we've received from vehicle rental companies is that they're going to increase their levels of cars that they're going to buy that are made in South Africa. So some of the campaigns we rolled out previously when the 3 Series were still made in South Africa, we continue to take different media representatives on factory tours to different factories to show them the cars that are made in South Africa, but for them to experience, what we keep talking about around the fact that levels of local content have increased in each of the cars that are made in South Africa, and for them to go and tell the story. So I'm going to quickly then take you to the campaign that we have been rolling out. I know I'm out of time. So I'm going to quickly play you a video of a campaign known as, we call it Second Half. And we call it Second Half because it follows the previous campaign, which we launched during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, known as Game Time. And at the time with Game Time, what we were saying is that we were all in lockdown, and that must be seen as halftime, because if you think of the analogy of football earlier on, when we were still prepping for the webinar before it started, I was telling the colleagues that I'm a fan of one of them, not one of them, is the most successful team in the country. I won't say which one, but think of a typical football match. If the economy it can be, compared to a football match. If you're not doing well in a football match in the first half, at halftime, you have to change tactics. You have to bring in new players and bring in substitutes so that in the second half you do well. The same applies to our economy. Before the pandemic hit our shores, the economy was already in trouble. In fact, when we went into that lockdown, we'd already been in a recession. We'd already been downgraded by all rating agencies. We were already on the verge of being grey listed. And so the unemployment levels were very high. And so everything that could have potentially gone wrong had already gone wrong. And we saw that period when we were at home and when all industries had closed down as halftime. And what we're calling on South Africans to do was that as the economy opened up after the hard lockdown and all industries opened up, for people to start buying locally made products. And so the campaign we rolled out at the time was known as Game Time. And now, our view, now that the economy has opened up, we're in the second half. We have to do things differently. And the doing things differently is what we all do. All of us make a purchasing decision. Daily, you are buying something for your home, for your business, and for those that employ you. And so we wanted to buy locally so that we turn the economy around. Let me quickly play the ad and then I'll conclude.
There's a voice that is calling, loudly calling, day by day, the voice of the future.
When I started my business, all I wanted was to create jobs and a legacy for the next generation, because I see opportunity when others see impossibility.
It all started with a thought and then a seed in the garden, which grew into my very own farm that feeds the whole nation daily.
Cotton, silk, and a little bit of treasure, I create masterpieces that give South Africans an identity, comfort, and confidence, because when you look good, you feel good.
From the factory workers to the warehouse and then over the seas, I want to show the world what proudly South African looks like. It all started with just some ink on paper and inspiration to bring people together. With my furniture, I now help create spaces that are beautiful, comfortable, and authentic to human light and connection.
I've always been driven by curiosity. It fueled my dreams to create automobiles that accelerate our nation into greater possibilities and the beauty of the unknown.
I was born into a rainbow nation. My life has been full of colors and mixed flavors. And when I started my bakery, I wanted to share that joy with the world and with South Africans in particular.
All I ever dreamt of was to be a bird and fly high. And now I have the wings to help others fulfill their dreams of flying high too.
But it can only be a dream until you make it a reality. All they need is your faith, your trust, your loyalty, your appreciation.
And most importantly,
Your support
because supporting local businesses
Helps create jobs.
and secures our future.
South Africa, their future is in your hands. So what are you going to do about it? Be proudly South African. Buy local to create jobs.
And that's the campaign that we're rolling out. Let's do it for the next generation. Let's ensure that our purchasing decisions ensures that there's a decent economy that can be passed on to the next generation. In preempting one of the questions that might come up around fees applicable to those who want to become members of Proudly South African, I've left this slide for last. If you want to become a member, there's a fee applicable, turnover of 5 million rands and above. You get to pay only 500 rands per annum. And as you see on the screen, the most that any company that wants to affiliate with us ever is to pay is 100,000 rands. And that is for companies with a turnover of 100 million rands and more. Thank you very much, Program Director. For those who want to make contact with us, info@proudlysa.co.za. Contact us 0113277778 or go into our website www.proudlysa.co.za. There is a tab for membership. You can go on there and fill in your details and submit your application. We'll then be able to then come back to you. We have a presence on all social media platforms, so follow us on all of those platforms and become a member of the Proudly South African campaign. Thank you very much, Program Director. I appreciate the time given to me this morning.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mashimbe, for setting the scene there and also giving us more information about the importance of buying Proudly South African, the importance of hashtag buying local to create jobs. Really exciting stuff there. And also, once again, talking about why it is that the focus today is on the automotive industry. That case study that you spoke about in the United States, South African can most certainly draw parallels with that. If you look at the industry here, it's the country's 5th largest export sector, accounting 18.1% of total exports, and it employs over 110,000 people. So great potential here in terms of job creation through the expansion and support of this labor-intensive sector. So the automotive sector most certainly having an important role to play. We're looking forward to the second half, of course. And now, as you rightfully said, an opportunity to hear from the National Association of Automobile Manufacturers of South Africa, or NAMSA. They are a Proudly SA member. This organization, established in 1935, and recently in 2020, they expanded their membership ecosystem, including associate members and key strategic partners, to accelerate the extraordinary contribution that they make to the well-being of South Africa, to its citizens, and most importantly, its economy. Let's hear a little bit more about the role of localization within NAMSA. We've got the CEO standing by now. Good morning, Mr. Mike Mabasa.
Please, Mama.
Very good morning, Carol. Thank you very much
have to go
for
home
the introduction.
and
I'm
it
hearing
needs to
happy
travel.
on the background, more than I hear myself. Good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm not sure if I can be able to share my screen very briefly, just to take our guests on the line through the presentation. But as I try and share my screen, obviously NAMSA, as you correctly indicated, Carol, is obviously the Automotive Business Council in South Africa, which is representing all the key stakeholders, particularly our original equipment manufacturers in the country. We are very proud that South Africa is obviously having quite a number of these in our country who have invested quite significantly in South Africa for the longest time. In fact, the automotive industry this year is celebrating its centenary. So we're celebrating 100 years since 1924, when the industry came into being in the country, and we are very proud that we are able to participate quite very actively in the work that we do as a sector. Obviously, from where we sit, as I indicated, localization is a mission-critical intervention for us as an industry because it speaks to the contribution that we want to make in developing the South African economy. We are currently contributing quite immensely to the economic development of our country. If you look at, for an example, our contribution to GDP, and I'm going to try and see if I can share my screen again. Let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, fantastic. So these are some of the members we represent. So all the original equipment manufacturers in South Africa are members of NAMSA. And as you can see on that particular screen, we've got 55 different brands in our ecosystem that are members of NAMSA. And as you also correctly indicated, we've expanded our reach in 2021, when we invited all other players to come and join NAMSA. For an example, all the 4 banks in the country are members of NAMSA, and we're very proud that our membership is obviously increasing quite significantly. And then we're also working with other industry partners within our industry that are contributing immensely to the economy of our country. In relation to our contribution to the South African economy, we currently, in terms of the 2023 numbers, contributing 5.3% to the South African gross domestic product. When you look at the auto export as a value of a percentage of all the total exports that are going out of the country, the automotive industry is contributing 14.7%. And then also, when you look at our total export earnings, so the money that we are actually bringing into South Africa as a result of exports, last year alone, we brought in more than 270 billion rands into our fiscus. We've got 46 brands, and these are mainly passenger brands that we are currently distributing in the country. And then there's also what we call medium and heavy commercial vehicles, which is buses and trucks within the automotive sector. And we continue to work with all these brands to really help us to drive the work that we do. When you look at our footprint globally, South Africa's contribution, particularly in terms of our production, our market share currently sits at, in Africa alone, at 54%. So when you look at the whole continent, our market share in the continent in terms of production is 54%, which obviously is very key for us because it provides us with fantastic opportunities to deepen and to grow our localization so that we can be able to make sure that we continue to produce vehicles in the country as much as possible. Globally, we are number 22 around the world as 22nd biggest producing nation around the world. And then obviously we are just producing less than 1% when you look at global sales, global production of vehicles around the world. I wanted to shift some gears a little bit, if I may, just to speak about localization as a key pillar for our transformation agenda as the automotive industry. I'm sure many of you are aware that the industry obviously took a decision when we launched in 2018 the South African Automotive Master Plan, which is really our vision to 2035. And with this vision, we really identified, 5, key specific areas that we needed to look at in order to accelerate and deepen, the automotive industry in South Africa. And we were very, very deliberate as a sector to make sure that we're able to drive these conversations as firmly as possible. As you can see on this particular screen, localization, as represented on number 3, is one of the key elements that we are looking at, where we really want to be able to make sure that we are able to localize, not just only vehicle production, but also component manufacturing in South Africa, so that we can be able to get to a place where by 2035, we're able to ensure that many companies that are producing components in South Africa, we are able to increase them, and we are also able to increase opportunities that are available for that particular space. Currently, when you look at the manufacturing of our vehicles in the country, 39% of our components that we use in the assembly process of our vehicles, 39% of those are produced locally in South Africa. Our vision, in line with the Automotive Master Plan, we want to be able to accelerate and increase that threshold from 39% to about 60% by 2035. It's a lot of work. Those numbers could look negligible, but it's a lot of work that we need to be able to do, not just only in relation to vehicle assembly and manufacturing, but also in terms of component manufacturing as well, because we currently have 7 local manufacturing OEMs in South Africa. As Eustace said earlier on, in Gauteng province in Tshwane, we've got Ford Motor Company in Silverton, which is producing the Ford Ranger, which many of you have seen on our roads, the new generation of Ford Rangers. And then in Roslyn, in that very same city, we've got 2 OEMs there. We've got BMW, which is producing the X3 that you see on our roads. And then we also have Nissan South Africa, which is producing a Nissan Navara. In KwaZulu-Natal, we've got Toyota, which is currently producing 4 different brands from their lines. We've got a Toyota Cross, we've got a Toyota Corolla, and then we've got the Toyota Hilux and the Toyota Fortuner. And then separate to that particular operation, they've got a separate operation where they're also producing the taxi that we have on our roads, the Toyota Sesfigile. And then in the Eastern Cape, which is our biggest province, where we are producing 3 different vehicles also from that particular province. We've got Isuzu, which is producing the D-Max Bakkie. Many South Africans are now calling it Nogwaja. And then we also have VWSA Volkswagen, which is producing the famous Polo Vivo from that particular factory. And then, of course, in East London, we've got Mercedes-Benz, which is producing the Mercedes-Benz C-Class. Our intention, obviously, is to continue to attract investments into South Africa. And over the last 4 years, we've seen 2 new OEMs that have obviously expressed interest in coming into South Africa. One has just finalized the setting up of their factory, also in the Eastern Cape at the Kucha Development Center, which is BAIC, B-A-I-C, which is a Chinese brand, and they will be starting to produce, a vehicle from that particular factory, hopefully before the end of this year. And then, of course, Stellantis, which has also announced an investment of 3 billion rands to also set up shop in South Africa, also in the Eastern Cape, where we are going to see them producing their Bakkie, which is a Peugeot Bakkie, from that particular factory. With all these developments, obviously, we want to accelerate, obviously, the industry's capacity to be able to make sure that our component manufacturing is also enhanced. We are able to stimulate and also attract new component manufacturers that are coming into our ecosystem in order for us to be able to make sure that we are able to drive these conversations as firmly as possible as we can. Now, in implementing this master plan, we decided to establish what we called the Executive Oversight Committee, which is chaired by the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. And then within these work streams, we've obviously created a number of work streams that are going to be driving the work of the of the master plan. And these work streams are obviously represented not only by government, but also industry itself, NAMSA, which is representing all our OEMs, NACAM, which is representing all our component manufacturers, labor unions represented by NUMSA, and then of course government is also represented in that particular work that we're doing to advance our interests in relation to localization and other areas. Now, this slide summarizes our path to 2035. Obviously, the impact of this path was hugely affected by COVID-19, and our capacity obviously has been constrained, because we're hoping that by this time we would obviously be at around 44%, but we're still hovering at around 39%, because COVID-19 has had a huge impact on the industry, and the industry is now recovering gradually in order for us to be able to make sure that we are able to get to where we want to get to in relation to deepening our localization as quickly as possible. As industry, we've also identified very strategically key components that we think we have a huge potential to localize in South Africa, both components that are required for vehicles interior and also for vehicles exterior. We are very clear about those particular components. We are working very, very closely amongst ourselves as industry. We're working with government. The minister 2 weeks ago, when we met with him, has agreed also to appoint an independent facilitator, which is going to really help us to be able to continue to help us to drive the opportunities that exist within the industry to really help us to drive our localization agenda, so that we can really be able to get to that 60% threshold as quickly as possible. As you can see on this slide, some of the commodities that we've identified are sitting at drivetrain components, and I'll come back to the drivetrains specifically, exterior components, pressing, interior, powertrains, and then of course electrical components that are absolutely very key in our vehicle manufacturing. And you can see the change that we want to see, particularly in terms of powertrains and also electrical. We need to be able to accelerate, reduce one in order for us to be able to accelerate the other, particularly in relation to our electrical components that are produced in South Africa as quickly as possible. We believe very strongly that there's the opportunity for small businesses in South Africa to play in this particular space is very, very huge, and we are working very, very closely with many other partners in order to help us to drive these conversations as quickly as possible. The potential, obviously, in relation to driving our local, localization agenda and the impact that we want to see in relation to localization is also very, very massive. What we have done as the industry in the last 3 years, we have created what we call the Automotive Industry Transformation Fund. When we've invested as a sector almost 6 billion rands into that particular fund over a period of 10 years in order to help us to accelerate our localization drive. And in this fund, we are promoting particularly small black-owned companies who would like to obviously play in the automotive industry. Because of access to funds, we can then be able to support them in order for them to be able to create their own businesses, so that they can be able to come in and support us in building the industry as firmly as possible. I think all of you on this call are aware that our industry is going to change faster in the next 10 years than it has in the last 100 years. We know about the fact that we're now evolving from the production of internal combustion engines into new energy vehicles, many of you call electric vehicles, and that journey has begun. South Africa is obviously going to play a very, very important role in that particular journey, particularly because we are a vehicle producing country. And as I indicated earlier on, more than 60%, 66% to be exact, of the vehicles that we produce in South Africa today are also exported out of the country, in order for us to be able to make sure that we don't only produce vehicles for our local market, but also for international markets. We also want to accelerate our capacity to be able to produce components in the country that are going to be used specifically in our new energy vehicles, primarily because, as you know, Africa, and South Africa in particular, is endowed with massive mineral resources that we have in South Africa. For an example, if you take, for an example, the battery technology that we need in our vehicles to power these new vehicles that we are now producing, 6 of the minerals that we need in that battery value chain are available in South Africa in massive, massive deposits. And we need to be able to have different conversations with a multiplicity of different other sectors, including the mining industry, in order for us to be able to make sure that as we mine these minerals from the ground, we are not putting them into containers and then shipping them out to China and other markets around the world in order to have those beneficiated there and then coming back into South Africa as finished products. We want to make sure that next to all our mines in South Africa, we're able to create new plants where we can be able to make sure that through a conveyor belt, we're able to move these minerals from the pit into a plant in order for us to make sure that we are able to beneficiate these minerals in South Africa, and also make sure that we're able to provide the much needed job opportunities for many of our young people who are currently starving for job opportunities in our country. So we do have absolutely a huge opportunity to create a new economy that does not exist. And that is obviously going to continue to accelerate our localization agenda, not only in terms of deepening, but also broadening it, because it is one thing to deepen localization, but if we don't broaden, and when you speak about broadening it, is that we want to broaden it by bringing new players into the market in order for us to be able to make sure that companies that never participated in the past in the sector are able to get an opportunity to play in a very, very aggressive manner in the country. As I conclude, I want to obviously reaffirm that the automotive industry is absolutely committed to localization. We are going to be working very tirelessly with all our partners, including Proudly SA, to be able to continue to drive these outcomes that we want to see. And we are also very pleased to see that all our OEMs that are producing vehicles in South Africa are also absolutely committed to this particular transformation agenda, because for us, localization is a non-negotiable. We need to be able to localize and make sure that the automotive industry is fully transformed, and it also represents the interests of the country as a whole. And I wish to share with you that 3 years ago, we had OEMs, many of whom were sitting at level 8 or worse in terms of their BBBE compliance. Today, in 2024, out of the 7 OEMs that we have in the country, 1 of them is a level 1 BBBE compliance OEM. 3 of them are level 2, and the other 3 are level 3. So we are accelerating our agenda quite very aggressively, and we want them to continue to spend more money to invest in the country so that we can really be able to make sure that we're able to take our country forward. In conclusion, we are obviously aware that we still do have a lot of challenges, particularly in relation to access to market. And those are issues that we are currently addressing in order for us to be able to widen the scope very, very widely. And I'm sure that working with partners like Proudly SA, we are obviously putting in place different interventions, including an asset called the SA Auto Week, which we will be celebrating in October this year. And I'm hoping that through Proudly SA, we'll be inviting many of you to the SA Auto Week, which we are hosting in Cape Town this year, to afford you also an opportunity to come and interface and interact very directly with some of these OEMs and some of the component manufacturers in order for us to be able to look at opportunities that exist and how we can be able to bring you in to be able to support this particular journey of supporting localization in our country. With that, Carol, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll take it back to you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wabasa, thank you so much. And a big thanks as well to NAMSA for being a part of this very, very important webinar and taking us through your localization roadmap as well. We can see there are synergies in terms of your vision and the vision of Proudly South African. Really, really exciting stuff. And you once again put paid to the importance of the automotive industry. It's classified as the anchor of the national industrial base, the largest manufacturing sector in the country's economy. So really an important sector in the country. A reminder to all of our delegates and our attendees that you can send your questions or pose any questions that you might have, any views that you might have to any of our speakers. You can do so via the chat box on the link. If you have linked via, of course, that link onto this webinar, or if you are watching via the social, any of the social handles, the media handles of Proudly South African, then you can also just send through your views there, hashtag buy local to create jobs. And we might be able to table your questions as well a little bit later on. Well, to our next speaker, and this one from the Automotive Industry Development Center, or AIDC, and the individual that we're about to hear from is someone who's got an automotive industry career that spans over 13 years. He joined the AIDC in the capacity of Executive Industry Development. Now, he'll be telling us a little bit more about the role of the AIDC within the automotive industry. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Anton Fietz.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Good morning to you, to the colleagues, as well as to the viewers. I would like to share my screen. There we go. Please advise when you can see it.
We can see it. You can see it.
Let's see. There we go. Okay, let's go into. Okay, good morning once again, colleagues. As the program director has mentioned, that I represent the AIDC this morning. So who is the AIDC? So we are a subsidiary of the Gauteng Growth Development and Agency, commonly known as the GGDA, which is an agency of the Gauteng Department of Economic Development. So the AIDC was established as a support center to strengthen the automotive industry, especially locally, but also in terms of creating global competitiveness, and also very importantly to establish Gauteng as an automotive industry destination of choice. For those who are not aware, we are 20 years old. So this year as well, this year we are celebrating our 20-year anniversary. And throughout this year, we've had celebrations regarding this 20-year achievement so far. And it's also important maybe to mention that it was a request from industry 20 years ago that the AIDC be established as an implementation agency of government. When we move on, just in terms of our mandate, AIDC serves to develop the automotive manufacturing sector to globally competitive standards. As I mentioned, we promote Gauteng as the automotive industry investment destination of choice. And thirdly, we are big on the transformation of the automotive industry. When I go through the rest of the slides, I'll also speak about the value proposition that the AIDC brings to the automotive industry, as well as it's critical that in retaining and attracting investments in the automotive industry, as well as allied related sectors. And quite crucial, we support BBBE SMME development, skills development, in line with the Growing Gauteng Together initiative. So just to touch on our value proposition, we have 5, let's say, key focus areas that the AIDC focuses on. So firstly, we have quite a beautiful automotive supplier park based in Tshwane, in Roslyn. We are quite strategically located. So just to give some context to you and as well as to the listeners, we are 1.5 kilometers away from the Nissan plant. We are 3.5 kilometers away from BMW South Africa, and we're about 35 kilometers away from Ford, which is situated in Silverton. So if we talk localization, localization is quite connected to a key component, which is logistics in terms of cost. So our proximity within Roslyn really gives us that competitive advantage to offer our clients really that logistics advantage in terms of cost. So we have shared infrastructure in our facilities. So it's 160 hectare land that we possess in our automotive supplier park, really state of the art, as I mentioned. And we've developed 60 hectares of that 160 hectares land so far. And we currently house quite a number of component manufacturers ranging from tier 1 suppliers who supply these OEMs just in time and just in sequence. And we're obviously open to any new investors to partner with government or to partner with the AIDC to further develop the park to be able to grow the automotive industry. And one of the key issues, obviously, from a localization perspective, is if you're going to set up a plant, you obviously need the land and you need that support infrastructure to enable you to be able to do that. And AIDC, part of the value proposition, brings exactly that solution to industry. As I've mentioned, the tenants that we house here supply parts such as bumpers, parts such as door panels, interior trim, just to name a few, to these OEMs in Tshwane. And we also have, like I mentioned, shared support services ranging from a whole host of whether medical facilities and so forth. Secondly, we also heavily involved in the aftermarket. We have 2 well-established township automotive hubs. We have one situated in the north of Tshwane in Winterveld, and we have a second hub in Chamdo, which is part where we have a partnership with the Mogale city. So these automotive hubs really do state-of-the-art repairs on vehicles. They have all the necessary requirements in terms of accreditation. They have also the required state-of-the-art equipment, which the SMMEs that are housed in these hubs are using to repair vehicles ranging from spray painting, panel beating, upholstery. We also have a locksmith in the Chamdo hub, and these township hubs really play a critical role in the aftermarket. And as I mentioned, we also have a host of employees from the AIDC who ensure that these hubs are run in a professional way. And also, once your vehicle is repaired at these hubs, there are vehicle assessors, we have master artisans, assessors who ensure that these vehicles are repaired to the required quality, whether it be from an ISO perspective or from an RMI perspective. So thirdly, we have an incubation program, a well-established incubation program, or 2 of them that we run. The one we run at Nissan, the second one we run at Ford. These incubation programs are really aimed at young Black industrialists, entrepreneurs who want to form part of the automotive value chain and want to be part of the value add in the automotive industry. This program is well established. We have a great and really awesome example last year where we had one of our incubatees graduating BIQ automotive component supplier. or bucks as they are known. So they supply or manufacture components to the Ford Motor Company. As I mentioned previously, they supplied in time and in sequence. And this company emerged from the incubation program of the AIDC that supports Black suppliers to be able to be independent and also to compete quite at a global scale. As some of us might know in the industry, Ford, for example, has ramped up significantly in terms of their volumes. And for these component suppliers or incubation companies to be able to meet this demand in terms of production is quite phenomenal from where we stand as the AIDC. Because for those who are familiar with the term just in time or just in sequence, this is quite critical for OEMs to be able to supply to OEMs competitively so. Then we have a department called the Supplier Enterprise Development. So this Supplier Development Department does a lot of work, mostly in tier 2 and 3 suppliers. You'll see in my next slide when I actually explain the issue that the industry have in terms of we have a very weak tier 2 and tier 3 supply base in terms of compared to other industries from a local content perspective. So we need to really do a lot of work and grow the local content at the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 base feeding into the tier 1 and OEMs in the end. So this is a group of industrial engineers. Part of their programs also include things like TPM, things like world-class manufacturing. We also do a lot of productivity improvement work within these various suppliers, and we've really been getting quite good feedback from our clients in terms of our productivity improvement or efficiency programs. Because if we want to compete or increase local content, our investors are obviously looking at competitiveness. And as government, we are saying that we have programs that we do from our supply development department to be able to address this competitive topic. And for those maybe who are not really that familiar with the automotive industry, we host obviously these multinational OEMs. And what's quite key as well is before the competition amongst the OEMs is local, the competition first starts with the sister plants in the various countries. So before, for example, Mercedes-Benz competes locally with Audi or Volkswagen, they first compete within the Mercedes-Benz group within the other plants in terms of which plant is the most competitive. And therefore, as the AIDC, we respond directly to this fact in terms of delivering supplier enterprise development solutions that helps the industry become more competitive. Then in terms of skills development, we have a beautiful learning center based in Roslyn where we upskill and teach automotive skills ranging from boilermaker, fitter and turner, mechanical fitter, spray painting. So we have a whole host of trades that we offer. We also have a trade test center where we can actually also trade test artisans once they've gone through their modules. As Mike mentioned earlier, there are various work streams that the EOC aims to address, and skills development forms part of this in terms of the value chain and skills. So as mentioned earlier, if you look on the left-hand side here, we have, for example, a paramedical industry in India from an automotive perspective, where you have the OEM on top. And as you go down, the base becomes quite stronger and stronger from tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. For those who are not familiar with automotive sort of value chain, so your tier 3 supplies into your tier 2, your tier 2 supplies into your tier 1, and your tier 1 supplies into your OEM. This is sort of how the OEM or how the automotive industry works. And if you look at on the right-hand side at our South African automotive industry landscape, you'll see that at the bottom, our tier 3 supplier base is quite, let's say, small, whereby our OEMs at the top, tier 1 is quite bigger than at the bottom. And so it forms kind of a diamond issue, or diamond shape. And this becomes a issue. So if we follow then the localization strategy that is outlined in the automotive investment, automotive plan, we want to grow this tier 2 and tier 3 base in order for us really to strengthen, to get to the 60% local content. And as I mentioned before, our supply and enterprise development deal with Kaizen. So we've done a lot of work, or we do a lot of work in terms of Kaizen programs to promote continuous improvement of production processes. We also do a lot of work in terms of quality management, whether it be ISO 9000, 14000, or 45000. We also have specialists who can actually go and certify a company or help a company establish these ISO 9000 in terms of standards. We also have a flagship program called our Total Production Productive Maintenance, which deals really with becoming more competitive from a productive maintenance perspective. We do a lot of local, international tours together with our partners and stakeholders. We also have green initiatives that deal with really this decarbonization topic in the value chain, whether it be from an energy point of view or any other topic that forms part of sustainability. We also have engineers that we placed at various sites in terms of our job creation mandate. And we also do a lot of work in terms of improvement workshops where we help our clients as government to be able to improve their processes. And just maybe further on in terms of supply development, as I've mentioned, we have customized support with challenges related to quality, cost, and delivery. We have improved manufacturing standards, compliance, and as the AIDC, because we've been so long in the industry and understand really our partners from tier 3, tier 4 up to OEM level, as well as aftermarket, we understand the complexity of actually building a car from, let's say, from the pressing parts or from the body shop or press shop right up until the final assembly. So it's quite a critical industrial process that really needs the highest quality and needs the highest standards in terms of conforming to these standards, whether it be ISO or the other IATF standards. So we're looking at improving productivity and profitability support to meet customer requirements. On that note, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Feets, for that presentation and telling us about the wonderful work that is being done by the AIDC. With this call for localization, it is so important that we are also globally competitive and globally competent. And you just look at the numbers and the track record of the AIDC, the number of jobs created since 2019 to 2023, 615. 17 is the number of the incubators that have graduated in that time frame. The revenue generated by 13 incubators or people trained, 139 million rand. And then you're looking at people trained as well between 2019 and 2023. That is 8,000. So very, very impressive. Continue the wonderful work there. Also, love seeing all of your questions that are coming through on the chat box. A reminder to continue to send those through, and we'll, of course, take a look at those questions, your opinions as well, in the Q&A session a little bit later on. And also, if you're on the socials and you're watching either on X, on LinkedIn, whether you're watching us on Facebook, we are streaming live there as well, or on Instagram, just make sure as well that you send through your views with the hashtag #BuyLocal. to create jobs. All right, now proudly South African from time to time gives opportunities to its members to showcase their businesses. So let's do that right now as you hear from a proudly SA member, Massoil Lubricants. Now they focus on the manufacturing of lubricants, of automotive, aviation, and marine products. Andrew Masuku is a director at Massoil. Good morning, Andrew. The platform is yours.
Good morning, Program Director. Can you hear me? Good morning, Program Director.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Thank you very much, Program Director, CEO, and the panelists. Good morning, all. I'm Andrew Masuku, MD for Massoil Lubricants, a Black-owned lubricants manufacturing and distributing company. Let me take you through to our slide. Welcome to Massoil. You'll pardon me, I'm also okay. What's
We can see your slide, Andrew. You're on mute now, Andrew.
Mr. Masuku, can you tell us what the difficulty is? You were unmuted, you muted now, and we can see your slide. So you can go ahead.
my slide does not want to display. I don't to open. I don't know what's wrong. All along it was.
We're sharing it on our side, and so you can go ahead. Just and then we'll share it from our side.
I don't see it here.
Would you like to share it? And then we'll stop sharing it from our side.
Share it that side so that, but I'm not seeing it here, Program Director. I only see. Lisego can help me now.
No.
Okay, can you try now to share it from your side, please?
Just asking that we move to the next.
Okay, Mr. Masuku, while we're trying to see how we can help, we're going to go to some of our questions and our comments at the moment. Ooh, lots of comments that are coming in here on the chat box. Let's see. Clarice Hughes, you've got a comment and a question, a very long one. So let's see. Clarice saying, there is a key challenge that's posed to the SAAM, which ultimately challenges the sustainable development of SA's progressive economy. The challenge lies in fulfilling the transformation component of the industry's master plan, as only 1/3 of laborers are women. Men have historically dominated the engineering, manufacturing, and related services industries in SA, with the status quo suggesting that only 23% of laborers of the industry are women, where the majority are in non-production related occupational roles. Now, while the automotive sector has long been perceived as a male-dominated field, the reality is that women's influence on wheels has played a fundamental role in molding its evolution, from innovative designers to pioneering engineers and influential executive. So here is your question. Okay. Go back to your question. So your question, Clarice, is what is being done by local stakeholders and MNCs alongside SA legislation to propel the SAAM in achieving its goal of achieving 1% of global vehicle production? What programs are in place? What programs are in place? I'm wondering who can answer that question from Clarice.
I'm happy to take that, Carol. Mike Mavasa here.
No.
Can I go?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much, Clarice, for that particular important question. You're absolutely right. So the industry's ambition is obviously to increase its current production from the current 600,000 odd, to around 1.4 million by 2035. It's a very, very big ask and also a very ambitious goal. In order for us to be able to get to 1.4 million by 2035, we absolutely need to do two things. The first one is to broaden, as I indicated earlier on, the size of our component manufacturing suppliers that are currently in South Africa, on the one hand, and also to deepen their contribution to our localization agenda, broadly speaking. And we want to do this by making sure that we are not focusing only on empowering our tier one suppliers, because the supplier base is staggered into different tiers. So tier one are those suppliers that are supplying their components directly to an OEM, in order for an OEM to produce a vehicle. Tier 2 is the supplier that supplies the Tier 1 with all those other components in order for them to build their components for the OEM and so on and so forth. So that's how those are structured. And we really want to be able to make sure that we are able to build and broaden this component manufacturing supply base from bottom up, so that by the time you arrive as a Tier 1, you are able to have a very strong footprint. And then the last point I want to make is that we are also, and I indicated earlier on, we're working directly with the DTIC, because as you know, South Africa has very strict competition rules and regulations. So companies like our OEMs cannot sit around the table together and speak about what projects and what products, for an example, to localize together. The Minister and the Competition Commission has now agreed because they've set up guidelines which were made public last year on localization, and the Minister has also now agreed to support the industry by appointing a facilitator that is going to help us and also to work with us in making sure that some of those localization conversations do not trample in any shape or form in our competition rules in the country and so on. So ensuring that we are able to broaden and deepen localization is going to be very, very critical. And we want to start that from the foundation phase and then bring that up to your Tier 1, as it were. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mabasa, for answering that question. There's another one for you as well. Rose, you said you had challenges joining and you joined late. Could we please share the recording? Yes, the recording will be shared on YouTube, thanks to A Proudly South African, so you can catch up with what you missed earlier on. A question for you, Mr. Mabasa, from an anonymous attendee saying, how do we sign up with NAMSA?
Very easy. You can go onto our website, namsa.co.za, and then there's obviously a tab for membership. Just go onto that particular tab, and then there's a form, and there's obviously a brochure that indicates the value proposition and also the different layers for membership. And certainly we'll be able to come back to you once you've given us your details so that we can be able to facilitate your membership. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mabasa. I think this one is for Mr. Mashimbe. Can we also be included in this initiative, localization of the automotive industry, if we source products from overseas but are SA-based companies?
Yes, you can participate in the Proudly South African campaign. What we will need to do is to increase levels of local content. Like I said, at least 50% of what you are sourcing and what it costs you to produce your product should be sourced locally. And so the ideal is for everything that is available in the country to be sourced locally. And we only really give exceptions where what you require is not necessarily available in the country. And so when we do consider the applications, we look at it on a case-by-case basis, but we have been able to assist a lot of companies with even finding suppliers locally where they did not have these in the country previously. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you so much. We'll continue with the questions a little bit later on. Right now, though, let's hear from another Proudly SA member, and that is Fusion Shopper, or X-Shine, manufacturing auto care detergents, polish, car shampoo, tire polish. Xolani Nopote started from washing engines at his car wash to manufacturing engine cleaners for Fusion Shopper. Xolani, the platform is yours now.
Okay. Good day, everyone. I hope can you hear me? Hello? Okay, thank you. Good day, everyone, and thank you for welcoming me. My name is Calvin Augustine from a company called Fusion Shopper, CQI Ltd, X-Shine. So why X-Shine? Back in the days, I used to operate a car wash where I was washing cars and then just keeping them shining and also cleaning your engine as well. And today, we are manufacturing our own auto care products. And we are mostly focusing on your decreasing solution. So our our degrading solution be like your hand cream soap with a little bit of 30%, and also the degraders as well. So that is our core focus. And they remove the grease, the cream, the oil deposit, and from your floors, your engines, your engine parts, your machines, and you are mostly CC. Sometimes we supply those mechanics that are out there, and we are also supplying the local motor engineering and selected engineering on your skills side as well. So that is us, and we are based in Western. Why choosing X-Shine? In fact, why choosing to buy local? So when it comes to that, if we talk about saving time, we're talking about saving no money. We're talking about creating much needed jobs. And with us, we do video input. So meaning your input can help us to improve our product, and you can and by doing that, you are also helping us to improve the economy as well. So yes, so that's one of the reasons why you should consider to buy X-Shine or to buy locally. And can you find us? Customers should not hunt for locally made products. They should be easily accessible. People should not worry where can I actually get it. They should be on their faces. So with X-Shine, we try to put ourselves almost everywhere. So, and with the CEO also say that there's a macro online through SAPS. We also through Proudly SI, I meant to say we also became a supplier for macro online, and we are also supplying Leroy Marlin online. We are also on the process to supply with Take a Lot through the assistance of the Calvin Augustine, of course. And we are also supplying local motor spares, and we are also supplying like the portal as well. And we do have our online store as well. And we are also in the verge of being supplying the Calvin SA shop that is opening soon as well. So yeah, X-Shine it tries to be everywhere, and we are the solution for our local mechanics. And we do believe if you buy local, you create jobs for local. Our money should be the one that is making our country better. So we can't complain if you don't open our wallet. So yes, I think. Oh, to get us,
We love it. Thank you so much, Xolani. Yeah, getting an opportunity to showcase, of course, his business, Fusion, which is, of course, Fusion Shopper and X-Shine. Loving it. So you manufacture degreasing products like hand grid soap, degreases with or without caustic. Your products remove grease, grim, dirt, oil deposits instantly from engines, from machines, engine parts, and floors. And like you said, do not be concerned about how it is that you can get local products. You are working hand in hand with Proudly South African to make sure that you're out there and you are readily available. May your business continue to grow from strength to strength. Then thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so that was Mr. Xolani Nopote. We'll have our last presentation as well from Mass Oil. Before that, we'll continue to look at some of the other questions, lots of questions that are coming through on the chat box. And a reminder as well that if you are watching on our social media pages, if you are watching as we're streaming live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter, you can also table your questions with the hashtag buy local to create jobs. We're almost done with this webinar, so there's still an opportunity, of course, to get involved. This question from Philemon Marikel is saying, good day. The 7 OEM are affiliated to Triple BEE. And in fact, before we even answer that one, there's another question here as well that can be tabled at the same time, saying, I would like to know how come the OEM's triple BE level scores have improved so much. Meanwhile, the industry's local content is still so low. Shouldn't there be some direct proportionality between the two variables? I understand other BE elements, but I'm talking about the procurement in this case. Who of our speakers can answer those questions?
I'm happy to take that, Carol. Yeah, absolutely. So Philemon, you're absolutely right. So as you know, the generic scorecard has 5 elements: ownership, management control, skills development, supplier and enterprise development, and of course SED at the end. And the reason why many of the OEMs are performing as well as they have is primarily because they've performed exceptionally well in all 5 elements, not just in one. You're right in relation to the procurement element, that there is still obviously a disparity in relation to local content, because most of the products and services that they source, they're obviously sourcing them locally, but also sourcing them from companies that are international, firms in South Africa that also has very, very impeccable, triple BE credentials in their own right. Because in our tier 1, for example, we certainly have a lot of multinational corporations that are operating in South Africa, many of whom are absolutely also playing a very, very important role in improving their own triple BE credentials. And as you know, and how the scorecard works, if you buy from a supplier that is empowered, that benefit obviously accrues to you as well as an OEM. And I agree with you. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, particularly in the procurement space, to be able to make sure that we're able to bring as many of those suppliers up as much as possible, but also to make sure that we're able to broaden the supplier base as quickly as possible. And this is why we are partnering with partners like Proudly SA, so that we can really be able to go into our communities and be able to make sure that we're able to mobilize companies that would like to play in the automotive industry, so that we can be able to see how best we can be able to support them to set up their own businesses and make sure that they're able to help us to contribute even more towards the procurement agenda of the industry. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you so much for answering that one. We've got a question here for Anton from Octavian Drove, who says, AIDC services, are they only offered to Gauteng-based businesses, and do your services come at a cost?
Thanks, Carol. So we are government-owned, a subsidiary of government. So we are based in the Gauteng. So our mandate mainly focuses within the Gauteng province. I'm not sure where the person is from, but we also have the AIDC in the Eastern Cape, which is also doing quite a good job in really supporting the automotive industry in the Eastern Cape. So there are those avenues as well, but mainly we support the businesses within the Gauteng provinces. And in terms of cost, we usually advertise on our website and in the general newspaper. We advertise usually opportunities, whether it be incubation or whether it be township automotive hub opportunities for SMMEs. We don't necessarily charge a cost because, like I said, we are government owned, and our mandate is really developing people within the country, but also developing businesses and SMMEs to be able to partake in the value chain of the automotive industry.
Thank you so much, Anton, for that. Thomas Dow asking, will all the presentations be shared? Yes, they will. We did say that, of course, the the proceedings will be available on YouTube after this, courtesy of Proudly South African. Spool September says we're in the early stages of establishing South Africa's first ever car brand and would appreciate support from NAMSA, from Proudly South African, and the AIDC. Okay, really exciting news there. Simemo Shabangu says, while I understand the strong focus on the manufacturing aspect of the industry, the OEMs, I'm curious to know if there are any programs for the after-sales market, i.e. accessories, repair workshops, etc. Who can answer Simemo's question, please?
Maybe from the AIDC side, as I mentioned, we have well-established township automotive hubs, and these hubs really service the aftermarket in terms of vehicle repairs, whether it be mechanical repairs, whether it be panel beating, whether it be upholstery, tire, servicing, the whole range of aftermarket services. And these hubs really can or really compete with your dealerships wherever they are in the country, and also we conform to the higher standards that are there for repair work. So our website also has more, AIDC website also has more information, should the person want to have more information. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you, Smemo, for your question. This one from Rendani Madilonga say, what is the minimum requirement to be part of the incubation program as a vehicle workshop business?
So I'll take that one as well, Program Director. So the incubation program, so obviously this program runs on average, let's say about 5 years. So after every 5 years or so, we then have new incubatees that come in. So past criteria has involved the engineering degree, some level of entrepreneurship qualification, and obviously a bit of production automotive experience to be able to at least understand the dynamics of building a car. Also, in terms of entering, we do a really thorough pre-assessment interview. We also do a psychometric test. So there's a whole process that we go through. And once these incubation opportunities do come up, they are advertised on our website as well as on the local newspapers for applicants to be able to apply and then go through this process. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Anton, for answering that one as well. And a final question here to Mr. Mabasa from an anonymous attendee saying, the other 2 OEMs, will they form part of the other 7?
No, not necessarily. So the 2 OEMs are completely, separate businesses in their own right. They are also OEMs. Global OEMs, one from China and another one from Europe. They are going to be adding to the 7. So we will, by the end of 2026, we will be having 9 OEMs that are manufacturing vehicles in South Africa. So it's not adding to the 7 as in, partnering with them in any shape or form. They are adding up that number from 7 to 9. And I hope that Anonymous meant it exactly how I'm explaining it, that it's going to be 7 plus 2, which will give us 9 OEMs in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for answering that question, Ms. Mabasa, and a big thanks as well to all of you for sending through your comments, your questions. I think we'll have time for one more. If there is 1 or 2 more questions, you can send those through right now. Let's see if we can hear once again from Mr. Masoko. Andrew, I don't know if you are ready now, just to tell us more about Mass Oil.
KP, wrong there.
Yes, Andrew, we can see your presentation. You can go ahead.
Okay, Mass Oil proudly is a company that was established in 2016. The aim was to venture into a lubricants industry, and we also manufacture. We are the only South Africans that manufacture and distribute lubricants. It is the only Black South African independent oil distributor and manufacturer. On the side of we are also our products are also meet the standard of API, and also on the part of the OEM, we are being recognized. On the part of the OEMs, we are dealing also with the VW and so on, and our products offers a wide range of industrial, mining, commercial, and automotive lubricants products within South Africa, and also we are looking at to venture into SADC. Our vision is to be the preferred manufacturer and distributor of top quality oils and lubricants in South Africa. Our mission statement to provide high quality products that meet the needs of our customers. We are looking at 50% attaining in terms of the customer growth. Mass Oil is able to provide clients with the best quality lubricants at the affordable price. We are also ISO certified. That is our plant in Pretoria. Our company offers transparency and customer participation. So we are that all the products and services that you receive are always of world class. We are cost effective and we don't have a middleman to inflate the product cost. Our team will save on the lubricants solution. We offer training and technical advice for our customers. Mass Oil Lubricants offers diverse range of oil and lubricants products. We produce our product locally, that we say locally slacker, and cover full automotive, mining, and industrial ranges. No matter what type of oil and lubricating product your company requires, we can provide it in a perfect mix of quality, price, and technical support. Mass Oil meets ISO 9001 of 2015, and we all when we manufacture or mix our lubricants, we only use group 1, 2, 3, and 4 virgin-based oils in a manufacturing process. The plant is ISO 14001 certified in terms of quality management system standards. Our strength is a professional team, state-of-the-art plant, most modern lab and ISO certification, including 17025. Complete product range, wide application, OEM approval. Our products, we specialize in automotive engine oils, semi-synthetic engine oils, fully synthetic, and so on. And also this, you'll see some of our products on the slides. And then also we have our products in also our ISOs, and as well as the distributors. The distributors, we give them the products and then they go and distribute at their own. We are saying here SME lubricant supplying opportunities in the automotive sector. The automotive industry must enable the small business to participate in the value chain within the industry. The automotive industry must assist SMEs to grow and be part of the bigger economy. This can be only done by creating supplying opportunities for the SMEs. By doing so, they will be growing the economy and enabling SMEs to be role players within the automotive industry. The industry must recognize the role of SMEs playing in the country's economy. SMEs form part of more than 50% of the SA economy, but they are left out or not supported when opportunities are available. I'm appealing to the automotive industry to support and open supplying opportunities for SMEs to grow the SA economy as well as the industry itself. Buying one or two commodities from SMEs will make a huge difference in combating unemployment. Support our dreams, buy locally, local as legal. When you support small business, you are supporting a dream. There's our contact there, and therefore, this is our contact. After that, I'd like to say, and I'd like to thank you and say thank you very much, although we have a glitch or hiccups during the presentation, but thank you very much. Thank you.
Ralewoka, Mr. Masood, can you just tell us your contact details? Just tell us your contact details again.
The contact details, our website, www.massoil.co.za, emails admin@massoil.co.za, sales@massoil.co.za, and then the numbers, cell phone numbers 079 945 9221. That is it.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. A big thanks to the Proudly SA members, Mass Oil, as well as Fusion Shopper, Ukolani as well, for showcasing their businesses. Yeah, local is indeed very lekker. A big thanks to all of you, our delegates and our attendees, for being a part of this groundbreaking webinar. A big thanks to our gracious hosts, and that is Proudly South African, for opening up, of course, this platform to have these important conversations. And our speakers, thank you so much for your words, for your involvement, and for the work that you do as well to grow the local economy. NAMSA, continue the wonderful work, and the AIDC as well. Thank you all so much for being a part of this webinar. A reminder as well, you've been asking the questions about taking a look at what transpired earlier on. If you missed out, yes, it will be available on YouTube. Remember, we were streaming live on social media as well. So a big thanks to everyone for getting involved and sending through your questions. Till the next one, keep well, and remember to keep supporting local. Buy local to create jobs. Goodbye.